immigration as our humanist exploration for today. I don't know if it's allergies or a cold, but my sinuses are a little off today, and that's okay. That's okay. Right now, we're dealing with a lot of hatred. We're dealing with uh, rampant xenophobia that's been given license by the highest echelons of government. We have a situation where people who contribute. Oh, here we go. Hello, Ray. We're recording and we're live on YouTube. So, Ray, welcome to the chat. I am so glad that you're here. You came on at a really good time. So, we're talking about immigration today. And this one will take a little bit of time, but I want to start. We're all citizens here. We're all natural born citizens in the United States here. And not all of us are white men of privilege like myself, so to speak. But we all care about this, and some of us are much closer to this issue than others. So, to start off, considering we are all natural born citizens, I want to give us a test. And when you watch this video, I want you to take this test. All right. I want to see how you did. I want to see how you did. I'm going to give you several of the questions on the U.S. Customs and Immigration Services sample citizenship test. If we're talking about immigration, specifically undocumented immigrants today, we should not take our citizenship for granted, and we should at least look at how well we would do on a citizenship test. Are you guys ready for some questions? Excellent. All right.
Let's do it.
So let's see. What is the supreme law of the land?
The Constitution.
Very good. What does the Constitution do?
It dictates what the lay of the land is. It tells us, what it gives us a platform as far as what we should do. It gives us just it's 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 like practical nature, and it's something that we have ill regarded as of recent.
It protects the people from tyranny.
Good.
Yes. And I just realized we have a Caesar and a king on right now. Ray and Caesar. We have a king and a Caesar on right now. Ray and Caesar. And a lovely dessert, a crepe Suzette. All right. So, Suzette, the idea of self-government is in the first three words in the Constitution. What are those words?
We the people.
Yes, I wrote a book by the title of We the People. It's in quotations. All right, let's see. Looking at this, Ray, what is an amendment?
It is in addition to the Constitution.
And what do we call Yep. And what do we call the first 10?
The Bill of Rights.
Excellent. Ray has a law background, so he's a ringer in this. Caesar, what is one right or freedom in the First Amendment?
One right for freedom of the right, like I would say, the most popular one is the right to bear arms, and
The First Amendment.
the First Amendment.
Mhm.
So the First Amendment
You're doing it right now.
is your freedom of speech.
Yes.
Actually, Suzette was correct. The First Amendment says You have the right to endure Jason's self-indulgent bullshit.
Right. And the thing is, it's so abject. Like, why? I think we've objectified the entire like Constitution has been deconstructed. It's been, it's at this point like destitute, um and it's like on limbo, the way that we're living in this presidency.
Mhm.
It's kind of conflictual.
Yes. Suzette, how many amendments to the Constitution are there?
What?
How many amendments are there in the U.S. Constitution?
I believe
Sure.
10. But are there new ones? I don't know. I know there was 10.
We go
Ray,
up
how
to the
many
20
amendments?
We go up to the 24th to the 25th because I know one of them is to get the president out of jail. And
Yeah, because there's probably more than 10 now.
I think
Well, I
there's
guess-
Oh, the
12.
Wait, was the Bill of Rights 10?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Well, I can't keep up. Sorry, but my brain doesn't work that well anymore. So
No, that's fine. That's fine. You know what? The official answer is 27, but I would go so far to say is we have 28, and it's because one more state ratified the Equal Rights Amendment, and this was recently, and former President Joe Biden gave an expert opinion because he is a constitutional scholar and a constitutional law professor, as well as President of the United States. He said that for all intents and purposes, he considers that the Equal Rights Amendment has passed. However, there's legal argument saying the Equal Rights Amendment has passed its sunset clause. So therefore, the process of having the Equal Rights Amendment has gone through its sunset clause. So therefore, we don't have it. But we have 27 amendments. And ideally, we should have 28. We should be embarrassed that we don't have the Equal Rights Amendment of 1973. All right, a few more questions. Suzette, name one branch of the U.S. government.
Oh, a branch?
Uh-huh.
Legislators.
Cool. All right, let's see. Caesar, what branch of the U.S. government, what steps, what stops one branch of the government from becoming too powerful? What constitutional principle?
I I would have to say that, just the judiciary power, and you have certain stipulations, like you have
Equal.
there's supposed to be, which has been ill regarded as of late, like
Equal.
you have the legislative, you have the executive branch, and then you have the judiciary, but it's not been respected as of late.
Yep. Ray, do you have an answer for this? What stops one branch from becoming too powerful? What is the name of the constitutional principle?
Principle is called checks and balances.
Equal.
Checks and balances and separation of powers. This is not on the test, but I will tell you where you can find it in the Federalist Papers. Both of these were presumably written by James Madison. These are involved in Federalist 10 and Federalist 51. Federalist 51, of course, is specifically about checks and balances and the separation of powers. In that, Madison writes, if all men were angels, government would not be necessary. But as such, we need a system of ambition to counteract ambition with auxiliary precautions. Very good, Ray. And then let's see, how many senators are there in the United States? How many serving senators are there in the United States?
Is it 60?
100.
Oh,
It's
100.
it's
That's right.
100. How many voting members of the House of Representatives are there? And I'm saying voting members because there are observing members, people from the Virgin Islands, for example. But how many voting members of the U.S. House of Representatives are there?
Approximately 435.
I thought it
435.
was
Very
four,
good.
430. Yeah. Yeah. 435, 438 or something of that sort.
And why do some states have more representatives than others?
Goes by population.
Gerrymandering.
Yes.
Gerrymandering.
Yeah, that too.
Let's see. Name at least one department in the cabinet.
Defense.
Secretariat.
Defense, Housing and Urban
Bullshit.
Development, Department of Justice,
They're
State
all
Department.
useless at this point. They're basically just they're like as like a mainstay. Like it's kind of a farce.
Secretary
What
of
is the-
State,
What is the highest court in the land?
Supreme.
Any other answers on this?
Shit, Supreme.
I would accept the Supreme Court, but if you've toured the Supreme Court, you've heard this stupid joke that this has been called the highest court in the land, but there's a gym above these chambers that has a basketball court. So that is, in fact, the highest court in the land. Under our Constitution, some powers belong to the states. What is one power of the states?
Appeal. Oh, the circuits. Right?
Repeat that?
The circuit courts.
No, that's the federal government. What is one power
Oh,
reserved for the
states.
states? Uh-huh. What's the power that the states have?
Okay. I know this, but I can't think of it. Jason, it's Sunday. Why are we doing this? We should be drinking beer.
All right, powers of the states. They have the right to create schools, to tax, to create laws that are specific to their state in question. Let's see
Challenge the
some
federal
other.
government.
State, the power to all laws not reserved to the federal government.
Right.
Who is the speaker? Who is currently the Speaker of the House of Representatives?
Oh, what's his face? Alfred E. Newman. The look-alike.
Mike Johnson. All right, name at least one senator from the state in which you are currently living in.
Name what?
Name at least one senator who's currently serving from
Padilla.
the state.
Padilla. And Schiff. I named both.
Now, Ray, what about yourself? Do you know your senators? Of course you know your senators.
Have him name it.
Cornyn and Cruz.
Yes. John Cornyn and Rafael Edward Cruz.
Oh, okay.
No, but you are all incorrect. I feel like, Ray, we talked earlier this week about the McLaughlin group. I feel like John McLaughlin. There are no senators serving from the state of misery and confusion. Eleanor Clift.
Wait.
I'm joking. I said there are no senators serving from the state of misery and confusion.
Oh, okay.
All right, a few more questions, and we'll get on with the main meat of today. So there are several constitutional amendments relating to voting Name at least one of them. You don't have to name the number, but tell me about the amendment that relates to voting. There's several of them.
Oh, the right to vote, well, women have the right to vote, the 19th Amendment.
Uh-huh.
The 19th Amendment that was passed in 1920,
20.
yeah.
What about the 15th Amendment?
After the suffragettes went through hell and back, 75 years start to finish with their campaign, because, you know, all people created equal. Yeah, right. Bullshit that was.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we have the 15th Amendment that does not restrict voting on the basis of color, the 19th Amendment that does not restrict voting on the basis of
No.
sex. Is it the 17th Amendment that allows the citizens of the state to vote for their senator? I think it's the 17th Amendment. Then we also have an amendment that says that 18-year-olds can vote.
18-year-old that we
We
fought
have-
for during the Vietnam War when the guys were
Mhm.
coming back. So yeah, we got that one passed.
And also an amendment that says that people in the District of Columbia can vote for the president.
Yep.
There you go. Few more. Let's see. When was the Declaration of Independence adopted?
1776.
What day?
July, was it July 14?
July 4th, 1776. There were 13 original states. Name 3.
Philadelphia.
Delaware.
Philadelphia is a city, Suzette.
Oh, well, oh, that's right.
I'd
Come
say
on.
it was
Pennsylvania,
Delaware and Connecticut.
Delaware, Pennsylvania, Connecticut,
Massachusetts,
Massachusetts.
Delaware.
Delaware has been said.
Okay. God, what's the one? Plymouth. What was? No.
Suzette, what type of animal is on your screen?
Oh, hamster. Oh, Hamsterdam.
No, it's the opposite of an old hamster. It's the opposite of an old hamster. It's a new hamster. New
Oh,
Hampshire.
New Hampshire. New Hampshire.
New Amsterdam.
New Hampshire.
New York.
Why was Maine not an original state?
Maine. Is this trivia? Are we doing?
I threw some
Jeopardy?
trivia in.
Do we have to answer it in the form of a question? What is?
All right, so I'll wrap this. I'll wrap this up. Name at least one Native American Indian tribe. Name at least one American Indian tribe in the United States. At least one.
Oh, Cherokee.
Very good. Name the 2 longest rivers in the United States.
Mississippi.
And what's the other
Colorado.
one?
Colorado River.
Missouri. And then name at least one state that borders Canada.
California. No. Oh, borders. Oh, Washington.
Washington. Idaho, correct. Montana. Minnesota, New York. Name at least one state that borders Mexico.
California.
Texas.
Yes, there's 2 more.
Arizona.
Yeah.
New
Yes.
Mexico.
Yes. And then lastly, why does the flag have 50 stars?
Represents the states.
Excellent. You guys passed the citizenship test. Please proceed forward for processing.
So will I not be deported at this point?
Oh no, you will be deported. But at least you can
Your fake ID.
at least you can leave knowing that you can pass the citizenship test. All right. I wanted to go. I brought the citizenship test because when I teach American government, I always give a citizenship test at the start of the semester and at the end of the semester. I want to gauge how the students do, and I want to see their reactions and gauge their impressions and how well they do by the end of the course. My perspective is if my students don't do well on a citizenship test by the end of a political science course that I teach on American government, then I have failed. And my students did particularly well. However, I think most natural born Americans would probably fail a citizenship test outright. They probably couldn't even name the country that they're in, for Christ's sake.
Are you talking about the average American?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I mean, some of the late night talk show hosts, they do out on the street, and
Yep.
Americans, oh my God, they're dumbish. Oh my God, it's embarrassing.
Well, we can't say that for sure. They get the people. They probably interview 100 people, and they get the 3 most peculiar people. And as such, today is an important day because this is Immigrant Heritage Month, June, and right now there's a lot of vile vitriol. I guess that's redundant. There's vitriol against immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants from South and Central America. And we see this being fomented for the sake of political points and political leverage, electoral leverage, by people at the highest levels of government. The Democrats even took on some of this vile rhetoric
Yep.
in the last election, and they have not been perfect themselves. For example, Donald Trump, one of the first things he said when he started running for office as a Republican, because keep in mind, he's only won 2 presidential elections. There's other elections that he did not win. For example, when he ran as I believe, the American Reform Party candidate back in the 90s. And he came down the escalator saying Mexico is not sending us their best. They're sending us their rapists, their drug dealers. And he's even said that people who come into this country in an undocumented manner are poisoning the blood of the country. If we go back to the presidential primary for the Republicans in 1980, there is a video that goes around from time to time of George H.W. Bush running against Ronald Reagan for the Republican nomination. And in this, I show this to my students as well, and they're too young to remember Reagan. Reagan died before they were born. Bush died while they were kids, but neither were president when they were alive. And I asked them, what is the political party of these 2 individuals? And they thought they were Democrats because both Reagan and Bush were asked about quote unquote illegal immigrants in the presidential primary of 1980. And in it, Reagan said, we don't do ourselves any favor by creating a strange and angry neighbor to our south. George H.W. Bush, Daddy Bush, Bush 41, said, how can you say such horrible things? These are decent, hardworking people. In the 1980s, we had another case as well, Plyer versus Doe, about whether or not children who have an undocumented status of immigration should be allowed to go to public school. And in this particular case, in the decision, the Supreme Court said, we don't do ourselves any favors by creating an entire class of illiterate people. We used to have this idea, off and on at least, that certain people deserved dignity and were not our enemy. And we are seeing quite the opposite of this today. And it's not just an underlying patina of cruelty, it's rampant vitriol and rampant divisiveness, and a divisiveness and venal aspect that people are relishing in. They're celebrating. They're enjoying it.
Well,
it's awful.
It's no different. It's no different than what Nazi Germany did You know, when you had the Weimar Republic that failed, you start pointing fingers at whomever you could find suspect, whomever is just kind of like an underlier, and that's where this, as you mentioned, this vitriol is derived from, in that when things are faltering, you have to, who do you blame? You have to find somebody to blame, and it's usually the people that are just kind of like the underliers.
Yeah. And we also see people like Stephen Miller, and he's an advisor to Donald Trump, as well as Kristi Noem, who is the current Secretary of Homeland Security, saying that we need to ramp up deportations to 3,000 people per day. And Kristi Noem in the Department of Homeland Security they're floating the idea of a reality game show where people compete for citizenship.
Yep.
This is disgusting. And then this wasn't during this presidential administration, but if you remember to a few years ago, both Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas,
Yep.
as well as the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, engaged in what would be legally considered human trafficking and a crime against humanity, specifically taking immigrants as a political prop.
Well, that's what they're
And
doing now. They're kidnapping and they're human trafficking these people.
I think it's appropriately called abduction. Then this shows you how amazing Uptown in San Diego is. Uptown includes South Park, University Heights, North Park, Mission Hills, Hillcrest, etc.
It's like the most ridiculous thing, like where they're sending them to Nantucket. It's like or sending them out to Boston. Like what business do they have just um sending an immigrant that is recently akin to the country, and like just taking them to some place that is some place that is like of leisure, or that is of greater of just like just some place that is entirely not of their nature. They don't understand what Nantucket is. They don't understand what it's just entirely inappropriate to displace someone that has come from another country,
Mm-hmm.
and now take them out of their security zone. I just feel like it's what they're doing. Like right now, the current administration is just they're displacing individuals, and they're putting them in awkward situations.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
like you
This-
can't just like take someone that, if I came from, let's just say, from Guadalajara, Mexico, I I don't I don't know what it's like to live in Amarillo, or I don't know what it's like to live in Maine. I you can't just send me off to Bangor, Maine, or send me off to Nantucket and assume that I'm gonna conform, because I don't have that experience. Like I don't I've not I've not lived that life, and you can't just assume that I will adapt, or that I'm gonna conform with the culture.
yeah.
But it's even worse than that. They're sending people to countries that they never even came from.
Yep,
Yeah,
we'll get to deportations in a minute. This is, I want to say specifically about Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis, like Caesar's saying, and it just behooves me that there's sort of a limerick in this came to mind. There once was an illegal alien from Nantucket because long ago, for basic human decency, Greg Abbott said, "Fuck it." Oh God. Okay, so moving on. We got a lot to talk about, but what I was saying, something makes me proud about San Diego, especially uptown. I live in the uptown area of San Diego because there was a raid on an Italian restaurant by ICE on Thursday. They just got everyone out of the kitchen. They zip tied everyone's hands behind their backs. And you know what the residents of South Park and the patrons of the restaurant did? They surrounded the ICE van to try to prevent this abduction from happening. ICE had to use flash grenades to disperse the crowd. But the people of my city, they tried their best to prevent this bullshit from happening.
Good for them.
Resisting an awful, unjust law. Like Augustine said, un lex justus non lex, an unjust law is not. And if people like to say back in slavery days, I would have been standing up against slavery. No,
Yep.
Look at what you're doing now. If you're supporting this garbage against your fellow human beings, you know that you would have been masturbating to the speeches of Calhoun, for example. And I want to look at immigration. Yeah, we wandered in our chat for a little while, but there are numbers. Numbers don't lie. You can lie with numbers, but the numbers, the data itself, data do not lie. And you would need some kind of requisite training in understanding data analytics to understand how to interpret data. And that's why you need someone with a background in data analytics to tell you what things mean sometimes. And then when you're that person, and then you can help explain what the data mean. And I want to tell you the data. So the Cato Institute, and I don't often quote the Cato Institute, but the Cato Institute estimates that since 1776, we've had 100 million people emigrating to the United States. We are truly a nation of immigrants. A nation of immigrants that did not do exactly entirely and exclusively kind things to the native Aboriginal population, but we are a nation of immigrants. I know, well, most of us, a couple of us on this chat right now, We might have a couple immigrants in our background, but for the most part, if you are of an indigenous ethnicity anywhere in the Americas, you are not an immigrant to this place. You you've dealt with the substantial burden of the immigrants who have come here. And then just to look at the amount of enslaved people here, the Root, which looks at slavery, says that 12.5 million people were transported to the New World between 1525 and 1866, with only 450,000 transported to what would become the United States. Larger numbers of people, 4.5 million Africans were abducted and delivered to Brazil. Then we have the Hispaniola. If we look at this and we want to see how many people of an undocumented, it's in Europe, it's called an irregular immigration status, but people who are undocumented in the US, there are different totals, but it ranges from 11 million to 15.4 million people. So we have 340 residents and citizens in the United States, and we have 15 million people who are undocumented. What are these waves of people out of these 15 million people that are inundating this country? Looking at the number of people who are actually in this country who are documented, 15 out of 340 million people is not a lot. It is not a lot.
And it's supply and demand. You know, if the work is commandeered, you know, if you need Felipe or Juan or Consuelo to cook in your kitchen,
Yep.
then they're gonna come and they're gonna be there, and you need them. And like it's just not having like a regard for knowing, like, it's like, what are we doing? Like we push and pull. Like we don't understand that we need these people. Like we want them, but then we don't. Like I don't understand. Like it's like a double entendre, you know. It's like, what are we? Why are we like? We tell them come but don't come. I don't get it.
What they're doing though right now, it's all political. They're using immigrants as a political tool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is right now. And that's all Trump's been doing with, quote unquote, these people. This is all political. Capitalism requires exploitation.
And, you know, I want to say two things about this. That, firstly, a fair amount of the people who talk shit about undocumented people are evangelical Christians.
Yeah.
And there is a parable in the New Testament about I was a stranger. Why is it that we get all the bad things about Christianity and very few of the good things about Christianity from evangelicals? That's a rhetorical question. Where's all the good stuff? You know, all the bad stuff, all the hatred, all the exclusion, all the lecturing and scolding about personal behavior might even be barely tolerable with a modicum of toleration if we got the good things from the evangelicals, all this love and taking care of each other. But, you know, we had to goddamn shame Joel Osteen on social media a couple years ago when that hurricane hit Houston to let some people stay in his big tax-free mega church. This is disgusting. So, Ray, here's a question from different think tanks and government reports and industry, what do you think the aggregate positive economic impact, including impact to GDP from undocumented immigrants, happens to be to the United States and the US economy? What do you think the aggregate economic impact in terms of real dollars from undocumented people to the United States annually? What do you think it is?
Annually, I would say maybe $300,000.
Suzette, what about you?
Oh, I don't know, Jason, I'm kind of doing other things.
Ray, what about you? Ray, what do you think the aggregate economic impact in real dollars to the American economy is from undocumented people?
Jason, I'm not an economist, but I know I will just be a speech that somebody I admire, Carl Sagan.
Your voice is coming in very soft. I'll
Yeah,
tell you.
speak up.
Here's what it is. Here's what it is. And when you hear this figure, which I'll give you different elements of why it's at this astronomical number. And you look at Trump and the Republicans, you'll further understand these people are bad at business. This is why they want neoliberalism and they want socialism for the wealthy, because they're just so bad at business. Undocumented people put in about $2 trillion into the United States a year in terms of money and productivity. $2 trillion. You know how much undocumented people take out of the system every year?
Nothing, Jason.
100
And this is something
No,
that
no, no, no.
I,
This
I
is
take
this is the real dollar cost, 150 billion. So if we're looking at $2 trillion in positive economic impact, and keep in mind, this is not saying that other people don't take money out of the system. Other people do. I don't have the number for that. I could try to find it. But
but Jason, I take it actually quite personal in that having been born and raised as a Mexican American, like
Mhm.
I know that my parents did not take a single dime. They don't, most Mexicans, most Latin Americans that come stateside, they just want to work. They don't want to be seen. They do not want to have like this barrage. They don't like the last thing that they want is to enlist themselves for some sort of state subsidy, and that's what I find entirely obnoxious, in that there's just no regard.
Yeah, well, okay, so I
for these.
agree with you. I agree with you, and that the majority of that $150 billion is for public school and emergency room visits, things that should be provided anyway to people in the United States. And if the employers of undocumented people took care of their health care, we would not be seeing those figures. But at the same time, this is not about some kind of corporate bottom line. The reason I'm giving the actual numbers out is to say all this garbage about how undocumented people are taking advantage. If you look at the positive contributions versus the cost, there's no contest over whether or not we need people here. And we're going to get to morality, and we're going to talk about why this exploitation is horrid. So here's some more numbers. Tax revenue. Undocumented people contribute taxes, not just by borrowing someone's identity but also by INIT. You can pay taxes if you're undocumented. And that's about $100 billion. That's about $100 billion a year in taxes, state and local taxes. Undocumented people put in $100 billion a year in state and local taxes. And you know how much they get, how much that they get back outside
Nothing.
of things like roads? Nothing.
Absolutely.
Nothing. Consumer spending. Undocumented people after taxes and after tax spending power, undocumented people put in $256.8 billion a year in after tax spending. So if you want to talk about, oh, they take out $150 billion a year for education and emergency room visits. Well, how much is put into the goddamn economy? Entrepreneurship, undocumented people. $27.1 billion in business income. And let's look at this. Billionaires in the United States. You know how much, according to the IRS, billionaires in the United States evade or avoid in taxes, in revenue a year? $150 billion a year. Undocumented people put in $2 trillion a year to the economy. Billionaires avoid $150 billion a year in revenue. Additionally, undocumented people, even if, borrowing other people's information and identities, pay significantly more in terms of a percentage in taxes than billionaires do. This is horrid. Corporate tax avoidance is $135 billion. Individual billionaires avoid $150 billion. So this is $285 billion that the wealthiest Americans avoid paying. So when we look at $2 trillion injected in the system from productivity and spending and taxation revenue for state and federal taxes from undocumented people, how can we not have undocumented people here to cover the cost of billionaires? This is I'm saying this not from the perspective of we need to exploit people. This is talking points to combat all this garbage on the right about, well, they're taking advantage. No, we're taking advantage. We couldn't survive economically without undocumented people. This is disgusting. In summary of estimated fiscal impact of undocumented people, total healthcare costs 22 to 23 billion, 70 billion for K through 12 children. Per taxpayer costs $956 a year. Taxes paid by immigrants, by undocumented people, 32 to 47 billion dollars. So looking at this, undocumented people are paying far more than the healthcare costs. But education, if people for 1 second have a pause and think that a 6-year-old should not be allowed to go to school because of their immigration status and go play with the other kids and go learn, that is inhuman. That is reprehensible. These people need to be. We have a rule in California for certain people. If you're a danger to yourself or others, you have a mandatory 72-hour observation period at a psych facility. It's a 5150. And you're a danger to yourself and others just from economics alone. If you want to be a libertarian or you want to be a fiscal conservative, just from those particular perspectives, you have to only champion undocumented people. This isn't even about the morality. This is just targeting all the goddamn stupid garbage rhetoric on the right. And the likelihood of criminality. Likelihood of criminality. For U.S. born citizens, arrest conviction rate about 1,000 incidents for felony arrest rate, about 1,000 incidents for US citizens for every 100,000 people. Legal immigrants, 800 incidents for every 100,000. Undocumented immigrants, 400 per every 100,000. And we talked about this before here, but the real problem, the real victims, and yes, they'll use poster children like Lake and Riley. That was a tragedy. Sure, that was an absolute tragedy.
Yeah.
But using that to target people who are typically the victims of economic insecurity and government and political violence, the instabilities thereof in other countries that have a large amount of responsibility laid at the feet of American foreign policy. And I always say this when I talk about the subject of migration patterns, specifically undocumented people in the United States who should greatly be classified not as undocumented immigrants or illegal aliens, but political and economic refugees. And looking at this, the greatest problem happens to be the fact that undocumented people are far less likely to try to activate first responder services when they need help.
Yep.
Because they won't call for help.
Shame on Lincoln Riley's family for being paid off to be used like that.
The problem is like and just to like I'm sorry, just to like piggyback on Suzette here, in that we won't call for help. We want to be hush. We want to be quiet. We want to be under the radar. And we're not going to trigger any action. You know, we're not going to call the police or anything of that sort. And it's so wrong for people to just abuse the fact that there are these people that, yes, they serve a menial function, and they're in servitude in perpetuity, and they're not paid well, and they're treated as trash.
Yeah, I'm angry. I'm angry about this. I'm angry that we even have to talk about this. I'm angry about the fact that we have to stand up against people who not only despise other people, that's fine. I sometimes like people who hate other people because they're fun to listen to, because they're entertaining. But the people who I really despise are the people who take glee in not only hating other people, but lying about hating other people and actively work to undermine other people's safety, security, and happiness. People who try to interfere, people who try to disrupt other people's happiness, safety, and security with glee as some kind of fetish or some kind of stupid entertainment to make themselves feel better. I get so angry when I hear about this. It makes me viscerally angry. It makes me viscerally angry. Why would you do this to another human being? You know, they say things like in therapy, hurt people hurt people. And this is generational as well. But God damn it, stop. Just stop hurting these people. I'm just almost speechless by how angry I get on this.
No.
And then, well, if you just were to follow a legal path, if you just, that stupid goddamn commercial from Kristi Noem,
Oh,
leave now. If you leave now, you'll have a chance to do things legally.
Right. You might have a chance to come back. And if it's like, yeah, I don't know the entire, repertoire about it. Like, I've heard it, but I find it to be so entirely offensive
Thank
and
you.
appalling.
Yeah. I thought the first time I saw it, I couldn't believe what I was seeing and hearing. I thought, what country am I living in? Is this Nazi Germany? And she's so comfortable. She's so comfortable saying this. And I turn it off. I turn to a different station. It is beyond anything I've ever seen in my entire life. And I mean, as soon as Trump took the oath of office, if you will, if he even really did that, um, I went around to my Hispanic neighbors, the ones I'm the closest to, and I warned them. And I went to each and every one of them and I told them, lock your doors. Do not open your doors to anyone you do not know, including the manager. If anybody comes to your door that is dressed in an ICE outfit, if it's the police, the sheriff, whoever, do not open your door. Don't answer it. You're not home. And if you're out in public, same thing. You drive away. You do not respond. And they've all got, I told them, I said, if you need help, call me. You know where I live. You come and get me if you can. And I mean, I told him, I said, I'll get between you and them. I'll do whatever it takes. I mean, I can't stand it. I just cannot
Well,
stand it.
Suzette, like, I thank you very much for what you're doing. I appreciate it. Like, I I don't even know. Like, I could very well be deported, you know, at this juncture,
No.
where we stand. I I don't feel like there's any restitution. Like, I don't, what are they going to tell me, that my birthright is going to be, that I I'm not a natural born citizen of the US? Like, that's harmful to me. Like, you can't you can't tell me that I'm not a citizen of this country. I was born and raised here. I I I don't have any other nation to call home. And and for this current government to just tell me that I don't belong here is wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when they say it to anyone, they're saying it to all of us.
Yep. And God, do you know how many visas are issued a year to the United States?
No.
50,000. Less than 1% of people who apply for them get them. There's all shit about, well, you can do it legally. And even people who go through the legal channels, it might take 10 years or decades to get everything approved and gone through. And additionally, what I goddamn hate is I don't like the laws that come out regarding immigration, etc. But, even trying to build into something suboptimal, we had a bipartisan agreement that Trump, who was not president at the time, killed.
Of course. So this has all been something that has been a problem probably throughout all our lifetimes. I'm 77. So they've just kind of dropped the ball on this for a long time. I mean, Here we
And
go.
yeah, and then with my students a few weeks ago, I played a game with them. They're young, and I told them about that old Fox TV show. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? And I said, let's play a game. Are you smarter than a Homeland Security Secretary?
Yeah.
Kristi Noem was brought before the Senate for testimony and was asked, can you define habeas corpus? And my students all could define habeas corpus. You know, maybe to be fair, we recently studied it, but still, if a 16-year-old could define habeas corpus, why should we not expect the person in charge of the Department of Homeland Security to have the ability to define habeas corpus? And Kristi Noem, she didn't say deport. She said remove. It's the ability of the president to remove people from this country. And keep in mind, that is suspicious as fuck. And I say that because to deport someone is to remove someone who's a foreign national. But you know what remove implies? Everybody. And
Yeah.
they're sending people to places.
Everyone's fair game.
Libya has a notice from the State Department on the State Department website of do not go to this country. We're deporting people to Libya. And we are having negotiations with that government right now to set up deportation centers like Sikot over by Tripoli, for Christ's sake. And also Somalia. We're deporting people, even if they are not nationals of those countries, like deporting Venezuelans to El Salvador. What the fuck?
Well, you're-
Not just Venezuelans. We want to deport, whomever we feel is like conflictual or caustic in society. Like if I now dictate that you are you're a nuisance
right.
to society, like now I'm going to send you on a plane to fucking El
Libya.
Salvador. Like
Yep.
what is this? Like this is a dictatorship
Yep.
that we're living in.
Yep.
Yeah. And considering that the president is suspending habeas corpus for people, and Kristi Noem was asked, where's habeas corpus in the Constitution? And she couldn't answer that, but my students can. Article 1, Section 9. Article 1, Section 9. That's where it's at in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 9. And you know what branch of the government corresponds with Article 1? Take a guess.
The executive.
No, Article 1.
Court.
Article 1 is the legislature. And so
Congress.
for suspension of habeas corpus, who do you have to go through? Congress. Ironically enough, to accept a present or an emolument from a foreign actor, you have to get permission, written explicit permission from Congress. And Trump has completely ignored both of those things. One second, I got a text message. Hold on. God. So he's just ignored them, absolutely ignored them. And looking at this, the whole idea that we could just deport American citizens are people with court orders to not remove them from the country. And then the Supreme Court says bring them back. And they don't. What the hell? This is at a point where the president does not have the constitutional authority, no matter how much they contrive themselves to have it, to avoid their responsibility to uphold and defend the Constitution. And it's it's unconscionable. So here's a question: you remember that movie Austin Powers, where Doctor Evil wants sharks with freaking laser beams on their heads? Remember that? So when the revolution comes and we have the war crimes trials, what do you think should happen to Christy Nome? I think that she should be tossed into a pit with puppies with AR-15s on their heads.
No, just really hungry puppies.
Puppy justice.
Yep.
Puppy goddamn justice. And you know what? We haven't been always great to immigrants in this country for what? Let's look at the dates. For 60 years, we had the Chinese Exclusion Acts. Then we had the Bracero programs, these rotating workers programs that Eisenhower just cut. And he had the USCIS, formerly INS. The INS at the time used military-style tactics to violently deport 1.3 million Mexican nationals back to Mexico from doing agricultural labor. And do you know what the cheeky little name for that project was?
Was
Wetback.
the Bracero program?
No, the
Was
Bracero
it?
program was the one where we had migrants coming in to do farm labor. Ray, what was the name of that operation?
Uh,
Oh, Ray said it. Ray, what was the name of that operation?
Project Wetback.
Operation Wetback. That was the name of the military style operation where we deported 1 million people who we invited over to do farm labor. Additionally, why do people stay in the United States? I will tell you why people stay in the United States if they're coming to do farm labor. It's because it's so hard to come back. It's almost impossible to come back. And additionally, we have about 1,000 people a year trying to cross the border. Costs tens of thousands of dollars to hire a coyote, and if you're lucky, you'll get across the goddamn border. And so we make it incredibly difficult for people to come back to do if they want to pursue doing seasonal agricultural labor. No, this is a bunch of garbage. It's never about the migrants or the impacts. It's always about little ways to sneak in benefits for big corporations
Yeah,
and to retract our civil liberties.
Yeah.
And it's done in a way that the people have been intoxicated on their feelings of being victors and besting people who are quote unquote invading their country and harming them. And it makes me angry that even more so that it's not the credulous nature of a lot of individuals. It's the fact that people are using the ability that they can over the credulous nature of these individuals to manipulate them into hinting and working actively against the people who they have so much more in common with. And looking at this,
yeah.
well,
And you have like honestly, Jason, like it's very much poignant in that if you have, because it's not even just about Mexicans, it's about anyone that we have serving our community. Like I absolutely, and I use this word like with with desist here, in that I hate when I see, oh, uh a South Asian person being persecuted, or somebody that has come from Bangladesh, or has like why, where's the restitution? There's like absolutely no regard. And I feel like it's total ill respect. And
Mhm.
like I'm just ill conform with it.
Well, Trump's first thing was a Muslim ban or a ban on Muslims from countries he wasn't doing business with. And that didn't go over so well. So now it's on people crossing from the southern border. And it also is even more appalling that there is not a white genocide in South Africa. And there is not a white genocide in South Africa. And Trump tried to push and pressure the president of South Africa, saying that there is. And the only asylum seekers that are being let into the United States now are white Afrikaners.
And let's not forget about the Palestinians.
And there's such, this is like some sort of crying call, like what, South Africa, how many Afrikaners are there? And like that, it's a tight-knit community, and let's just be honest. Let's call a spade, and that they're they're all racist. They don't like black people.
Well,
Like
that's must.
they despise them.
Yeah.
The beneficiaries of apartheid have significant influence in the US government that apartheid Afrikaners didn't previously have. And it's not just Musk, it's also Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel was not born in South Africa, but he was raised in South Africa. And David Sachs as well,
And
Trump's crypto czar, and Musk. And I wish G Berry were on right now because she would go off on this. And then she'd ask for sperm donation. That was a fun conversation a while ago. But looking at this, we see that coming across the border is a minor level federal crime, but it's not illegal to be undocumented in the U.S. However, looking at it, back in 1893 and Fong Yu Ting versus the United States, despite the fact that a couple years earlier in the Gick Low versus Hopkins case, the so-called Chinese laundry case that really solidified the equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment, um, they avoided it, saying that crossing the border should be treated as a civil matter rather than a criminal matter. So Supreme Court precedents from Fong Yu Ting, 1893, says that the enforcement of immigration of undocumented immigration should be treated largely as a civil matter. And they did so specifically so they could avoid the aspect of habeas corpus. But hey, if you're going to treat it as a civil matter, stop saying it's illegal. Stop saying illegal. And also, guess what? Even if it's a civil matter, everyone in the United States gets habeas corpus, except for those who have been considered in a time of war, invading the United States, and those who have committed rebellion against the United States. Oh, yeah, Donald Trump engaged in rebellion against the United States. And all the people he says are invading, well, there's two requirements for invasion: presence plus enmity. And
If you want me to warm your burrito, like you need to shut the fuck up. Like that's just where I need to placate it. It needs to be a matter of like, do you want me to wash your laundry? Do you want me to, fold your clothes?
do your
Like,
landscaping.
I'm sorry?
Do your landscaping.
Right. Like just leave it alone.
Or
And
even or even Suzette, we can get a Guatemalan to give someone a Brazilian and they will do your landscaping and
There
your
you go. There
manscaping.
you go. Yeah, there you go. Manicures, the whole shebang.
Yeah. Well, well, also the people who got refugee protective status here, like people from Haiti, for example,
Yeah.
and pushing that bullshit rhetoric about how they're eating the pets, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs.
Yeah,
The Haitian refugees vastly improved the local economy and increased housing prices in Springfield, Ohio. But how did we thank them? You want to talk about JD Vance? Did you even say thank you? This dickhead went on Face the Nation, this dickhead vice president of ours went on Face the Nation, and when he was confronted with the fact he was lying, he said, "Yeah, but we still need to get that message out there." And him saying to Vladimir Zelensky, "Did you even say thank you?" You know, did
oh,
we even say thank you to the Haitian refugees? We did not. You know how
no,
we
of
thanked
course
them?
not.
We had people calling bomb threats to the schools that the children who are Haitian refugees attended. Bomb threats to the schools. We threatened children with bombing.
yeah,
They're all eating cats. They're eating cats like all over St. Paul and Minneapolis. They're devouring cats. Like it's it's appalling. Like how how do
Minneapolis is an
you
Algonquin word for tabby tartar.
the tabby tartar? It's 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 just disgusting though, in that in that you have this demographic that believes that this is actually true. Uh, and I I just I totally cease and desist about it. Like I can't wrap my head around it, because I do, like, I have my own conditions with just the way that I was raised and where I've come from. And I just feel that it's entirely improper. Like, when you start treating uh, a community yeah, like I I understand that we do have to have like migratory conditions. Like, you can't just allow any Tom, Dick, or Harry across the border. But if somebody comes to work, give them a fair shake.
Yep.
And
Treat them
that's
with respect.
right. And
They have
exactly,
doing good.
treat them as a human.
Yep,
Like, they're not here to harm you.
exactly.
They're here to help. They're
Yes,
here to provide a service.
yes.
And just leave it be. Like, let them alone. And uh, there are very few that I like. I I find it I find it problematic, the way we talk about, oh, that that Mexicans are rapists, that were violators and narco traffickants and
Well,
whatever. It's
they
like,
are narcos. Not
oh
all of them. There's white guys
well,
involved too.
there's
But you know what? The rapists are white guys too. Because I've
well,
been
and
raped
the
twice and they
thing
were
is,
white guys. They weren't black,
sure,
they were white.
I know. And Suzette, the thing is, where there's a supply, there's a demand.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
like the drug traffic uh industry is entirely driven by the US.
Oh yeah. I mean, Vietnam. The military was involved with bringing back cocaine and heroin. They were flying in on military planes. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, I'm looking it up in the United States, looking at population and population projections, and this. What is the state with the lowest number of Hispanics? What do you think?
The state with the lowest number of Hispanics. You mean as
Yes.
far as citizens or what?
Um, anything, anything.
Just people living there.
Yep,
The lowest number of Hispanics living there.
yep.
Are
I
you
would
talking?
say
Okay.
North Dakota or Idaho.
I'd say like Utah,
Wyoming.
Wyoming,
Idaho.
Wyoming is correct.
Okay,
And the
Wyoming.
greatest crime of having such a low Hispanic population, we will not be seeing a film coming out of Montaña de Rota Espalda.
Could we at least go see Old Yeller
Yes.
in
Oh,
Jackson Hole?
come on. That joke wasn't funny. Montaña de Rota Espalda.
You translate. You translate for us, Caesar.
Montana de Rojo Espada. That would be
Rota
the mountain of the
Espalda.
red sword.
Okay, well I know the Rojo, so that's the only thing I got.
Yeah,
Hold on. Did I
Montaña de
translate?
Rota Espalda, but I was talking more to, the point of I want to go to Jackson Hole. I want
Well,
to go to
I was
the
trying to say
the park.
Brokeback Mountain. I was
Oh.
trying to say Brokeback Mountain. Montaña de Rota Espalda.
That wasn't even close.
That was a good try.
Montaña de
But no, it's
Espalda
not
Quebrada.
Montaña de Espalda Rota.
Have any of you watched, or are you watching Landman?
No.
Okay, you might want to give it a try. It's about oil and the hard facts about our life. You might want to give it a try. It's very well scripted, and it's going to hit you hard because we are in a rock and a hard place, and it's
Oh.
filled with facts that are going to be hard to swallow.
Suzette, where do you find this?
It's now on DVD. So if you haven't, it's probably on Netflix. It's not on regular television. So DVD, my library has it. So if you have access to a library, they probably have it. If you can get it online, maybe at your library, but it's on DVD. It is excellent. I'm totally hooked on it. And season 1 is now available on DVD. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Okay. So some last things I want to say. Polling data. This one is from a 2024 Chicago Council survey. 83% of Republicans say large numbers of immigrants and refugees coming to the United States is a critical threat to the country. 61% believe immigrants from other cultures have a mainly negative impact on American society. 57% of Republicans support mass deportation. 44% say illegal immigrants working in the U.S. should be required to leave their jobs in the country, while 41% favor providing them a path to U.S. citizenship. For Democrats, 43% of Democrats initially say they support mass deportation of immigrants living in the country illegally when simply asked if they favor deporting undocumented immigrants, according to a 2025 Axios Ipsos poll. However, this support dropped sharply when specific implementation methods are mentioned. About 80% of Democrats support deporting undocumented immigrants who have been convicted of violent crimes. That's a strong bipartisan consensus on that issue. A supermajority of Democrats and a supermajority of Americans overall support a pathway to citizenship. And yeah, this is a partisan issue. This is a partisan issue, and basically, it just seems like at this point for me, if the Republicans are saying something just from an empirical grounding, I just can't believe it. It's just, how many times can you be wrong before you have to acknowledge that you're wrong? And we're still trying to count this. It's rather impressive, actually. Rather impressive. All right, we are coming up on 2 hours. I like to keep these things under 2 hours. We did our humanist exploration for today. We went over a really broad topic. I gave some facts. We had a little fun with the citizenship quiz. So let's do some final words, and we'll wrap up until next week when we talk about men's mental health. And I think we coined a new term for today. And that new term is the opposite of a Karen is a Suzette. Suzette, final words from Suzette.
Wait, what?
The opposite of a Karen is a Suzette.
The opposite of a carrot?
Karen.
And wait, what? A what?
A Karen, like the
Oh, a
busybody middle-aged
Karen?
white.
Oh,
Yeah. The opposite of a Karen is a Suzette.
Oh, thanks. That's a compliment. Appreciate that.
All right, Suzette, final words.
Final words. Okay, when you guys come up, when you get up here, the day's on me. I'll pay for everything. The
Okay.
library, the lunch, everything, drinks,
I like
everything.
steak.
Okay, so that'll give you incentive. All you gotta do
I'm
is
gonna bring
pay for the
I'm gonna
gas
bring
to
a-
get up here.
I'll bring 30 people.
No, you won't. You and Caesar. You and Caesar.
Caesar, we're gonna go out to Simi Valley and we're gonna see the Reagan Presidential Library, and Suzette is gonna get us drunk enough to actually swallow that shit.
And well, I'm gonna feed you too.
Ooh, I like that. You're
There's
gonna
lots
feed
of
us
good.
liberal
There's a
You're
lot
gonna
of
feed
good.
us liberal tears. Liberal tears. Excuse me. All right. So Caesar, actually, Ray. Final words from Ray.
Once again, Jason, I appreciate you bringing me in on these. I do.
Well, Ray, you can
Of
come
course.
too. I don't mean to leave you out.
Oh, thanks. I don't think I'll be out there anytime soon, but I appreciate
You
it.
know,
I
Suzette, do you
don't
want
want.
to?
Oh, go ahead.
Suzette, do you want to play for? Do you want to pay for the plane fare from Austin?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were maybe like in San Diego. Sorry,
No,
Ray. I mean, I have a little
I'm
bit of
one
money.
little. I'm one little blue, very tiny atoll in the middle of an ocean of ruby red,
Oh, where are you?
Texas.
Oh, fuck.
Jason was there a while back.
Yeah, we work
Oh.
together. We
Oh.
work together for the same assholes.
Oh,
Yeah, oh yeah.
you know
I'm
what?
working
Well,
for different assholes now.
Landman takes place in Texas. It's about
Texas.
oil. It's
Yeah,
excellent, excellent, excellent. You guys will love it. I guarantee you will be hooked on it. I guarantee it.
I will put it on my
Okay.
list to watch
Yes,
binge it while
yes,
working on
yes.
stuff.
A lot of Billy Bob Thornton is a master class in vulgarity.
Does he outdo Ed Harris, Al Pacino,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
et
yeah. Oh,
cetera
no,
in
no,
Glengarry, Glen Ross?
no comparison. No comparison.
You've seen Glengarry, Glen Ross, haven't you?
Oh yes, many times.
Fuck you, that's my name. See this watch, it costs more than that piece of
Wait
shit
till you
car
wait
you
till you no, that is nothing. That's
I love it.
nothing.
But Suzette, you're a woman. How are you letting that harm your virginal ear?
Oh, I'm loving it. It's beautiful. It is
Well,
so well
God,
written.
re-
It's so
re-
well written.
remember when James was on the other day and he's like, there are
Yeah.
women here. I'm just like, you don't know the women here.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, Carrie, you're coming in right at the tail end. Glad that you showed up. You're coming in at the tail end. Caesar's going to close us out. Caesar, final words.
All right. Already?
Final words. Oh,
Yeah,
well,
we did it from 2 to 4.
Yeah, but it's only what?
well,
Okay.
let's allow Carrie to have some remarks because I've spoken a bunch, and so I'm just gonna desist for a minute and allow her to have the pulpit.
Well, thank you, Caesar. But given that I missed most of the meeting, but it is on immigration. And so I'm just going to reiterate what I said last night is that um, this MAGA movement is basically all about protecting white privilege. And it's through Christianity because Christianity allows them to believe that, because it's a patriarchal society. And so they believe that, all people of color and women are below white men. And so this Christianity religion perpetuates this idea of white privilege. And so, like I said last night, I talked to my Republican friends on Facebook and I basically called them out because this moment in history is where we need to correct these errors because obviously these are not true. And so we just need to call it out what it is and expose them for what they are and correct these errors every time we see them and help them out with love, and we're going to get there. And on the other side of this, we're going to have a new renaissance, and we're going to be whole, we're going to be in recovery, and we're going to get there. We just have to bear through it.
You're here. You're here.
Yep.
All right.
Caesar, thank you. Caesar, you get the final word.
Uh, I just want to say that I'd like to take a nice shower and have like a spa day and just kind of bask a bit, and I've not done that in many a days. Like I've not manicured, I've not pedicured, and I feel like every once in a while, like we need to spoil ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah, especially after everything that we've been going through.
Yep.
All right, everyone. This was a great chat.
Yeah.
Our Sunday humanist explorations are set up deliberately to meander, look at data, look at ideas, and just go over a topic. And I think we did a really good job with it today. So we're going to do this every Sunday because we need this. Thank you so much, everyone. And see you next Sunday.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Bye.
There we go. Cool. I got some stuff I need to do. This was fun. Thank you so much, everybody. Yeah, we did really well today, and we learned a lot. So cool. All right.